You'd think that family would be your biggest cheerleader, your safest place. But in my case, it's always been different. I've always been the too much one. Too emotional, too talkative, too ambitious. At least that's what my sister, Brianna, loved to say. She was the golden child, the well-balanced one, the one who could do no wrong. It started with little things. Not being picked for group family photos, getting cut off mid-sentence at dinner tables, the inside jokes that everyone shared except me. But I always brushed it off, told myself I was imagining it. Until Brianna's baby shower, it was supposed to be a big event, catered, outdoor tent, dozens of guests. Our mother had been buzzing about it for weeks. I was never directly invited, but I figured the invitation would come eventually. It didn't. I only found out about the party when I saw my cousin Jenna's Instagram story. A full carousel of photos. My entire family was there. Balloons, cake, speeches. I even spotted a few people I barely recognized. Old neighbors, distant relatives. Everyone but me. I tried to convince myself it was an oversight. Maybe they forgot. Maybe the invite got lost. So I called my mom. "Oh, honey," she said with an awkward laugh. "We just assumed you'd be busy with your book stuff." I didn't say anything. Then Brianna called the next day, not to apologize, but to explain. She said, "We didn't invite you because, well, you always make it about yourself. And this day was about the baby." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. Me? Make it about myself? I'd spent most of my adult life trying to not outshine her. I'd toned myself down so much that I barely recognized who I was at family events. But that call flipped something inside me. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I didn't even defend myself. I just said, "Got it. Thanks for letting me know," and hung up. That was the moment I knew. If they didn't want me at the table, I'd build my own damn table. And the world would watch me do. Next day, after that call, I stared at the ceiling all night, wide awake. The room felt colder, quieter. I kept replaying Brianna's voice. "You always make it about yourself." Was that really how they saw me? No. That was how they chose to see me. Because it made them feel better, safer, superior. Truth was, I had dreams. Big ones. I'd been working on my novel for 3 years in silence, while balancing a draining 9 to 5 and freelancing at night just to pay rent. Not one person in my family had ever asked about my writing. They laughed at it, actually. Dad once said, "Books don't pay bills. Be realistic." Mom asked once if I'd finally given up that silly little writing hobby. What they didn't know was that I hadn't given up. In fact, I'd just signed with a literary agent 3 months ago. I hadn't told anyone, not because I was hiding it, but because I didn't want to hear, "Don't get your hopes up," again. That week after the baby shower, something shifted inside me. The pain turned to fuel. I doubled down, edited every night, sent draft after draft. My editor pushed me harder than anyone had before, and I loved it. Then came the phone call. "Your book has been selected as the Publisher Spotlight debut. We're going big, citywide marketing, author events, and oh, your book tour begins in 4 months." I nearly dropped the phone. I had dreamed about this moment 1,000 times, but when it actually happened, it felt quiet. Because there was no one I wanted to tell. Not my parents. Not my sister. Not even my cousins. They hadn't earned this piece of joy. I went to my first book signing in a small downtown bookstore. The line wrapped around the block. Readers holding copies of a story I wrote in my bedroom at 2 a.m. People who believed, and in it. Then came the billboards. The publisher had booked massive ad space across the city. Bus stops, metro stations, and right in the heart of town, 3 glowing billboards stacked vertically with my face, my book cover, and the words, "The most powerful debut of the year." I didn't even have to tell my family. They found out on their own. Brianna texted first. "Brianna, is that you On the billboard near Fifth Ave? I didn't respond. Mom called the next day. Voicemail. Mom. Sweetheart, I saw your face today downtown. I had no idea. You didn't tell us. We're so proud of you. The next message was from my dad, the man who told me, books don't pay bills. Dad. Hey, I owe you an apology. You proved us wrong. Really proud of you, kiddo. Each message made my chest tighten, but not in the way I expected. I wasn't overjoyed. I wasn't even angry. I felt nothing. I had already grieved. Their absence, their rejection, I had already healed. Now, they were catching up to a version of me I had built without them, and I wasn't sure if they still had a place in that version. The invitations started rolling in, not from my family, but from media, outlets, schools, and book festivals. People wanted to hear me speak, not just about the story I wrote, but about resilience, rejection, and the road to becoming an author when everyone doubted you. And with every interview, every spotlight feature, my family's silence over the years became louder. One afternoon, I was invited to do a segment on a popular local morning show. It was a full circle moment. They wanted to film part of it in my old neighborhood for a hometown success angle. As I stepped out of the car with the crew, I spotted my mom across the street. She wasn't expecting to see me. She stood, frozen, holding a bag of groceries, staring at the cameras like she was watching a different timeline play out. She didn't wave. I didn't either. 2 days later, I received an email from my sister. A long one. Subject: I owe you. Hey, I've been watching everything unfold. Your interviews, your book signings, the billboards. I didn't realize how much you had going on. I guess we just thought, well, maybe you weren't serious. That's on us. I'm sorry for what I said. The baby shower thing. The make it about yourself comment. That was cruel. Anyway, if you're up for it, we'd love to host a dinner. No pressure, just come home. Brianna, I read it twice. Then again. And still, I didn't know how to feel. For years, they made me feel like I was the odd one out. The drama queen. The dreamer who couldn't face reality. But now the dream was real, and now they wanted me back. I didn't respond. Instead, I poured my energy into my next project, mentoring young writers. I started a local workshop, free of charge, for teens who had big stories but no support. Every single one of them reminded me of a younger me, passionate, uncertain, and desperate for someone to say, I believe in you. That workshop filled something in me my family never had. But just when I thought I had left all of that behind, my mom showed up at one of the sessions. I was in the middle of a talk when I spotted her through the window, clutching a worn-out copy of my book. After the session ended, she waited quietly by the door. Hi, she said, voice small. I read it. All of it. I nodded. You wrote about us, she continued, eyes glassy. And you were fair. Brutally honest, but fair. I didn't know you were hurting that much. I didn't reply. She reached into her purse and handed me a crumpled piece of paper. It was a letter. A handwritten apology. I took it, folded it, and slipped it into my bag without reading it. Not yet. Do you think we'll ever be close again? She asked. I looked at her, the woman who once told me to grow up and stop pretending I'd be famous. I don't know, I said. But I'm not angry anymore. And I wasn't. But I also wasn't willing to give them the best version of me now that they had rejected every version before. Months passed after that encounter with my mother. The letter she gave me sat unopened on my bookshelf for weeks. I'd glance at it every now and then, debating whether to read it or let it stay a symbol of the past, like a scar that had already healed but still tingled on rainy days. Eventually, I opened it. It wasn't poetic or overly emotional. It was raw, honest. She wrote about how proud she was of me, how ashamed she was of her own words, her own small-mindedness. She talked about the way the family used to whisper about me when I left the room, how they rolled their eyes when I mentioned writing, how my ambition made them uncomfortable. She ended it with, "We didn't know how to handle someone who dreamed bigger than us, and instead of supporting you, we tried to shrink you." I'm so sorry. I didn't cry, but I did feel something shift inside me. Later that week, I got a call from a cousin I hadn't heard from in years. "Hey, just saw your face on a bus stop." "Ed!" he laughed. "Crazy! We've been telling everyone we're related to you. Uncle Terry even said he used to read your early stuff. Total lie. But hey, you're family, right?" I didn't know whether to laugh or hang up. These were the same people who once told me to stop embarrassing myself when I'd talk about publishing. Now they were name-dropping me in casual conversation, like they'd always been in my corner. They invited me to a family dinner a few weeks later, some big reunion thing. My sister even called to say, "It would mean a lot if you came. Everyone's proud of you now." That word echoed in my head. I showed up, not to gloat or rub it in their faces, but to take back my space. When I walked into the dining room, every head turned. My book was front and center on the coffee table. My aunt hugged me. My uncle clapped me on the back and said, "We always knew you had it in you." Lies, but I smiled. Not for them. For me. Dinner was weirdly pleasant. They listened when I spoke. They asked questions. They wanted to know about my tour, the celebrities I met, the next book. Then my sister raised a glass and said, "To the one in the family who made it, we're lucky to call you ours." I held my glass but didn't drink. Instead, I said, "Thank you." But just so we're clear, I didn't make it because of you. I made it in spite of you. The room went quiet. I looked around at every face that once smirked when I cried, dismissed my passion, ignored me during celebrations, and called me too much. Then I raised my glass. To the ones who couldn't see my worth, thank you. You lit a fire I'll never put out. That night, I left early. I didn't need their praise or their performative support because I finally understood something. Sometimes, the apology never comes the way you imagined. And sometimes, the people who once mocked your dreams end up being the same ones who brag about knowing you when you finally fly. Let them. You don't owe them anything.